Welcome back to the second episode of Rounds and Five, a podcast hosted by yours truly, Johnson Newen. Today we are welcoming a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Rain. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, dude. I'm happy to be here.
What's up?
Not much, just on a break in between rounds right now while we record this, which is fun and hip and fresh.
Do you think your next rounds will be in 5, perhaps?
I hope not.
To whoever didn't understand the title of the show, that's what it is. Shout out to everyone that listened to the last and the first episode put up by yours truly. It was very nice to hear all your warm feedback. And if you have not listened to that episode, please go back and do so. But after this one, because here with Rain, we're going to get into some really interesting content. We're going to be talking about fitness and the gym. Before we start, though, let's get to know Rain a little bit. Rain, tell me a little about yourself. What are you studying in school?
I study forensic anthropology, so to those of you that have maybe heard of that, or maybe not, it's the study of human remains with relation to how they passed away and who they were in life. If you know the TV show Bones, then that's pretty much what I study, but less glamorous.
Rain, would you say you have a particularly favorite bone?
Yeah, actually, my favorite bone is the cuboid bone in your foot because it's pretty much perfectly square.
Haha, that's very funny. That's comedy, as they say.
Yeah, what can I say? I'm the life of the forensics department.
All right, for sure. I'll give you that one. Rain, tell me, what did you have for breakfast today?
Well, that is a great question. I actually didn't have breakfast this morning. I went out last night and I woke up fairly hungover, so I had some super strong coffee and then mustered up the energy to go walk to the Starbucks on campus to study, and I popped some soup in the microwave and forgot about it. So there's no breakfast for me this morning. But,
Sometimes you do. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I brought you on, Rain, because you're very relatable to them first years. Soup and partying. Rain, what would you say your favorite type of soup is?
Oh, my favorite type of soup? I love pho. That's it.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. I mean, I really like soup, though. It's an all-weather food.
Definitely. It really warms the soul a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, they even wrote a book about that, right?
Yeah.
Go figure. Before we get into the questions, Rain, why don't you just tell us a little bit about how you got into fitness and how that process started for you?
Well, I come from a super athletic family. Both of my parents were professional triathletes, and now my mom is still a super good trail runner. Not quite pro, but gets paid to do races. So, my family's also always been super into fitness, and I started doing sports super young. I started off doing gymnastics, and I was kind of a round kid, so that didn't go very well because I wasn't strong enough to hold myself up. So they decided to put me into swimming, and then I swam for the next 18 years after that, and was pretty much an Olympic trial caliber swimmer. And then I quit swimming.
Rain, did you have any, what specialization of swimming did you do?
I was really good at the 200 butterfly, 200 meter butterfly, which, if you've heard of it, is probably the closest thing to torture that most people experience. Some people really like it, don't get me wrong, I did. But, I've also had a fair amount of water in my lungs because of that race.
Your own form of water torture.
Yeah.
I would assume. Going back to your mother, though, Rain, it sounds like she was a pretty intense athlete. What were some of the longest runs that she ran?
A few summers ago, it would have been the summer after my first year in university, I think, she did the 100-mile Western State Championship. So she was one of like something runners that qualified to get in, and it took her like 24 hours and 1 minute, and I was her crew, and it was grueling for both ends, I think.
What are some responsibilities that you had on being on the crew team?
Well, being her crew, I had to drive around to different checkpoints, because if you run for 24 hours straight, you actually go through quite a few pairs of shoes. And I was her food, because this was...
Wait, so she ate you?
Yes. I was her food transport, because this was in the middle of nowhere in California, outside of Lake Tahoe, but like the California side. So it was really nice, but I also saw nothing, and there was nothing. And I think I went to In-N-Out Burger about 5 times in that 24 hours.
What do you think do you remember what your order was from In-N-Out Burger?
Oh yeah, I got a like double stacked burger, protein style, which means that it's lettuce wrapped because I'm celiac. And then if I'm feeling extra spicy, I get fries animal style, which is where they just give you fries, melted cheese, caramelized onions, relish, and it's the best thing ever.
That's like everything you could imagine from a fast food restaurant in America. God bless America. I love it. Yeah, dude, that sounds like pretty extreme stuff. Like, it definitely reminds me of like David Goggins type of running, you know, the ultra marathon runner.
Yeah.
Who just like runs like 100-mile marathons for like the fuck of it. Like, that's pretty extreme stuff. Like, it takes a different type of mentality to do that type of race.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've like started doing some ultra-ish runs, and like I can't do the longer ones. I do like the ones with more altitude, which puts them as an ultra run, but like the longest I've gone has been, I think, about 30K, and that I could not do more than that.
30K? Dude, that's so ridiculous. Yeah. I run barely 5K and I'm winded. Like, that's a whole nother level. Running is just a whole other thing. We don't do that in powerlifting. we don't know what running is. Cool. So let's jump into this. Rain is here because she is a pretty, I would say, experienced lifter or gym goer, and definitely knows her way around a barbell and that sort of stuff. I would like Rain to provide some insights on the gym and her experiences as a female. Definitely something that I can't speak to, but starting off, why do you enjoy going to the gym? What do you like about the gym?
I like the gym because it's kind of my alone time in a way. I like to disconnect from my phone. I mean, like, I have music, but I don't necessarily check it as much as I normally would. It makes me feel really good after, like, if I get all the sweat out of my body and out of my system. Like, I like to feel good because it makes me feel good about myself, and the gym is one way to do that.
That's fair. Yeah, I really enjoy just like having a goal and then like focusing on that and going to the gym, because it kind of just distracts you from like the rest of the world. Being in the powerlifting side, like, we're handling some pretty heavy weight, relatively, of course, but at the same time, like, when you're squatting like 300 pounds, like, you can't really think about like all the other stuff that you got going on in your life, like what assignments are due, like your relationships and like all this other stuff. Like, you just kind of have to focus on what you're doing in that moment. So it's nice to just kind of like not think about that kind of stuff and just have that 2-hour like chunk of just solid work, and you really just feel good afterwards because like you feel like you got something done, you accomplished something. So I definitely know what you're talking about there. With the gym though, sometimes accompanying that are feelings of burnout, or you just get unmotivated and it's hard to go to the gym. I know that I experienced that a lot. Like, I had a bout with that like a week ago, where like every day I told myself I would go to the gym, but I couldn't just kind of bring myself to it. Like, a lot of it has to do with like just, I don't know, the weather maybe, just because it's getting darker early and pretty cold, and we have to make that big walk to Carsa from Res. But how are some things that you do to kind of keep yourself going keep yourself accountable and keep yourself going to the gym and trying to stay motivated?
Well, for a while, I went every day because that was the way that I was raised, and I found that if I didn't go to the gym, I just felt this huge feeling of shame. And I kind of worked through that in the last few years to turn working out into something that I enjoy more.
Something more productive, right?
Yeah, more productive, rather, instead of doing it because I feel like I have to, doing it because I want to. Still taking those off days. Sometimes I'll have off weeks where I'll maybe go like 3 times, and that's just like, you gotta listen to your body, because in the end it's gonna be what really goes for you, or tells you what to do. And if you're having those stagnant weeks or times, like, you just really gotta switch it up. If you do the same thing every time you go to the gym, like, you're gonna burn out so fast. And there's so many social media websites, like, or social media accounts now that post like workout videos, so there's always something new to try. Like, I don't know, sometimes I'll do super heavy weights like one week, and then I'll do like all body weight exercises the next week, and it's like, you know, might look ridiculous or seem ridiculous, but like, if you're having fun while doing it, nobody cares, and that's like,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's cool to like mix it up and try new stuff. But right now, like, I would say that sometimes what people might need is like a good program or like something to do like repeatedly for several times, just to kind of like get you know, more experience under that. Like, how would you factor that in? Like, when should you like try something new, or when should you kind of just stick to something?
Well, I think it depends on the goal you have in mind. Like, if you want to build a base fitness, I think just like going and doing something every time, like not necessarily having a program, is great. But if you have a goal, like you want to lose weight, you want to lift super heavy, that kind of stuff, I think you have to go in with the mindset that it's going to take a while, it's not going to be overnight, and to have that program and really tough it out even through those times when you feel burnt out. Like, I think it's important to just remember that like the gym is hard work. You should enjoy it, but like, it's, you know. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people, like myself included, sometimes get caught up in the results, wanting to just be somewhere where you're not quite there yet. As a competitive powerlifter, I know that there's a lot of people out there that are a lot stronger than me, so it is tough that sometimes you just want that quick fix and just get to that point, and then you can be competitive with everyone. But I think a lot of it is about enjoying the journey, enjoying the process, taking it day by day, and just like seeing the results of getting better. I think that's like one of the best part of being in the gym. So I think one of the most important things to remember is that like, it's not gonna be an overnight process. There's no magic trick to it. Like, it's a lot of work, and it's like hard work too. But Rain, what are some tips that you might have for first-time gym goers? Like, what should they do when they're in the gym? How do they kind of navigate that space that's like unfamiliar to them?
First things first, I would definitely say find somebody or a friend that you know who goes to the gym and try and go with them a few times. Like, if they're willing, most of your friends should be. I love to take people to the gym. I love to show them what to do, like, or if they're interested in going, do that. If not, again, social media, like, look up some things. There's always people working at the gym to ask if you're not sure about what's happening. So, what else? If that's what you're doing, going to the gym for the first time, I think a lot of people can be really self-conscious too, especially if you've never been to the gym. And my advice to you is like, don't be. I know it's a really hard thing, like there's a lot of people and you're there, but nobody there is going to be paying attention to you. They're going to be focused on their workout, and that's really important to keep in mind when you're feeling self-conscious. Like, I fall on my face about like 3 times a week while I'm at the gym, and I don't think anybody's ever noticed. Like, I laugh it off and then I keep going, and it's like kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, well, there's that attitude, everyone like starts from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Like, everyone was once like a beginner. Like, we don't wake up and lift 600 pounds unless you're like incredibly superhuman.
Unless you're Dave.
Yeah, unless you're David Morris from the front desk. Shout outs to our man. But yeah, everyone starts from somewhere. Like, it's a lot of work, and you're gonna look silly. But the thing is like nobody cares. Like everyone's too preoccupied doing their own thing, or if they do notice, like nobody's gonna say anything. Like that's just a dick thing to say. Like nobody wants unsolicited advice, and nobody wants to be the person to give that. And if you do, probably stop. But yeah, like you just gotta keep doing it until you get to the feel of it. It's called like greasing the groove, that type of stuff, and just getting used to being in that space and just like figuring it out. Yeah, so if you're a first timer, definitely bring a friend. Like that helps, but sometimes your friends don't really know what they're doing either, which is kind of bad to say, but like a lot of people that I see at the gym are kind of like just gym bros or gym like casuals, and that's cool. But it's a good place to start, and definitely working out with a partner is a lot more fun than working out by yourself too. Anything else you want to say about first timers, how these little newbies can respect the Iron Church?
I think just like never be afraid to kind of ask when you're there. Like there are people working there for a reason.
Definitely.
Like they're super happy to help most of the time, and like I think a lot of people at the gym are too. Like don't go tapping on somebody who's like mid-set with their headphones on, but like someone with headphones off or one headphone in, if you're just like, hey, like do you know how this works, like they'll probably be happy to help you. Honestly,
if you're a guy or maybe even a girl, like one thing that I definitely found useful when I went to the gym, like a little bit earlier on in my lifting career, was that you just find the biggest person in the room in the gym, and then you just ask them questions. Like you just get knowledge from that person. A lot of times, like that person's gonna be really receptive, because I know, like for myself, I love passing down like knowledge and like giving tips and that kind of stuff. But like I mentioned, like I'm not just gonna go up to someone and tell them how to squat, right? But if somebody like asked me to like check their form for them, or like ask them for squat tips, like I'd be happy to give that to them. So if that's something that like you can pull off, all the power to you. Like find that big person in the gym and just be like, yo, like what are some things that I can do to like get bigger biceps, or like get bigger triceps, and just build on that. That's a good place to start from there. Rain, one thing I would like to talk about with you is gym etiquette. We go to Carsa, of course. If you go to McKinnon, all the power to you, but I personally can't really stomach that type of space. I need my barbells, I need my free weights, and I need to be able to move without thinking I'm gonna like bump into someone else. But at Carsa, it's the main gym, and you see a lot of different things going on. Before we jump into gym etiquette though, Rain, why don't you tell us like a crazy story or something ridiculous that you saw someone do in Carsa?
Oh boy. So I don't think I've seen anything too wild at Carsa, but my gym back home, there's one guy who comes in. I normally work out in the night back then, and it's like a completely empty gym except for this one guy, and he just screams every time he pushes the bench up. It's just like, ah!
like a scream or a grunt?
Like a scream.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like, you're sitting there and you're like, what? And he does the strangest exercises, again, to each their own. Like
whatever works for you, but still, some things work better than others.
Yeah, and I know I said earlier, like, most people don't notice what you're doing at the gym, but I mean, when you kind of scream, then people do. And the other thing is he does those, like, neck exercises where he will put his, like, the strap around his head and then just, like, stand there and kind of do, repeatedly.
Just trying to build that thick neck.
Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely one of the strangest things I've seen. Other than, I think, Carsa, the strangest thing I've seen is I saw someone running pretty, like, hard sprints on the treadmill in jeans.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Maybe they just got off work or something, but that's pretty crazy. I don't really see that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, some pretty crazy, well, I don't know about crazy, but just some odd behavior that goes on. The gym is really good place to people watch, surprisingly. Like, you see a lot of different kind of behaviors of, like, people at the gym. One thing that I've seen is someone What were they doing? They were in the power rack, and they were just doing, like, similar to your story, they were doing shrugs, but they were like grunting super loud when they're shrugging, when they're doing trap bar raise or barbell raises. Yeah, that kind of stuff is pretty ridiculous, but it's pretty funny to see. But yeah, why don't you tell me a do and then a don't, and then I'll tell you one of mine.
Do make sure that you take the weight off of your equipment when you're done using it, or put it away, because Carsa's pretty busy and it's super likely somebody's waiting to use that, and like a naked bar or something put away is generally the sign that nobody's using it. Don't pick up equipment that you see lying around on the floor, because even though people don't put it away, a lot of the time somebody's using it and they're kind of doing a circuit thing and just like coming back, or they went to get water and they're coming back. Because I've had my equipment put away on me so many times just by like walking like 2 feet away to get water, and it's wild.
Yeah, I mean, that is pretty typical of some of the things that go on in Carsa. That's pretty bad. A don't that I have is a pretty bro one, but don't curl in the squat rack, dude. Come on, like that's not the place to do. You could literally curl anywhere you want. You could just stand and curl like in the free weight section, probably where that is. Like, you don't need to be walking over to the squat rack, picking up the bar and doing like one half curl and putting it back, or whatever some people do. Do have spotters when you're lifting heavy-ish weight, a weight that you don't think, well, even if you do think you can handle it, but you might not think that you can do it super cleanly, like something that's like in an 80 to 90% range, if you know what your maxes are. It's important to be safe in the gym and have those spotters that kind of like catch you if you need to. The squat racks have power, have the safety bars, and that can be helpful, but some people kind of just walk right out of those and just forego those completely, so that kind of just like takes away the point of those. But definitely have spotters if you're like doing a bench or you're doing a squat or anything that like similar to that. Any other do's or don'ts that you might have?
Oh god, I could go on don'ts for forever. But I think just like, or I guess this is a do, but be aware of the space that you're taking up when you're doing something. Like you mentioned, like doing the curls in the squat rack. Like, don't jump rope in the middle of the floor space. Like, if there's like something like in the floor space and you're there and like taking up a lot of it, maybe move over to the side. Don't sit on the plyometric boxes. People are generally using those for something, like they're not seats. Just like, I can go on and on, but I think spatial awareness is key.
That's actually funny that you mentioned that, because I did that today. Not the wood ones, but one of the rubber ones. It was one of the lower ones, but I definitely just like pulled up and threw my stuff all over it while I was like squatting. So it's funny that you mentioned that. I won't do that anymore. Yeah, so there's some do's and don'ts for you. Hopefully that helps you out. But going into the meat of our podcast, getting the female perspective of the gym, why don't you speak on that a little bit? Like, kind of like what it might be like for you to be going a gym goer as a girl. What are some common things that like might happen, like that kind of stuff?
Well, I've been going to Carsa for 5 years now. This is my like 5th and final year at UVic. And I've definitely seen it change a lot over those 5 years, because my first year here was the first year that it opened. And I think a lot of the changes have been good, but it also means that I've been through a lot of the bad. And when I first started going to Carsa, I was one of the few female presenting people there, and I've always noticed the split between the bottom layer with all the free weights being pretty male dominated, and then the upper level with all the cardio being more female dominated. And like, it can be really uncomfortable or kind of intimidating if you're new to the gym and that's what you walk into, and you're like, wait a second, these are all like guys down here, how am I gonna work in with them, and what am I gonna do? And I think it's just like, it's also your gym, and you're welcome to be there. And like, I don't know, it's tough. It really is. I have some beef with Carsa too, because in my second year here, an employee dress coded me because they could see my bra in the armpits of my shirt, and he asked me to go home and change, and or like told me I couldn't keep working out because he could see my bra through the armpits of my shirt. And I kid you not, like, just right in front of me, there was a guy with one of those muscle shirts ripped down to like the hip bone, and I'm like, well, what about him? And he's like, I'm not talking to him right now, I'm talking to you. So I wrote a letter, and I think recently the dress code at Carsa has been changed. But like, that was also a huge thing. It's like, what? But
yeah, I can definitely recall that time. I definitely had a couple of dings for wearing like a tank with like the sleeves like cut too far down. So I only wear t-shirts. I'm a little bit self-conscious of that now, just getting dinged. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think a lot of the dress code stuff is a lot more lax. I think it's also like the people that are working there. I've got some buddies that work there, and they just like tell me like it's whatever, it doesn't bother them because it's like, you know, their body, right?
Yeah.
They can kind of just like wear whatever you want, type of deal. But that sucks to like have that moment where you're like singled out, because like it definitely sounds like middle school, right? Like that shit shouldn't happen. It's kind of fucked up, but in any case, we're trending to more positive space, which is good. But yeah, Carsa can be a little bit problematic in that regard. Maybe we should send them another letter. But as a girl, Rain, do you ever want to be approached in the gym? Is that ever a thought that comes in your mind? Like, you see a guy and you're like, wow, I kind of hope like he comes and talks to me. Like, is that ever something you think about?
Honestly, no. I am there for my workout, and I don't really notice like people around me unless I'm like walking from one place to another, or like somebody motions to me. Like, I'm there for myself and myself only. And like, I mean, if someone approached me, like, I'd probably be like, cool, but not.
Yeah, I'm not like the most best place to do it, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be the most hype.
Mm-hmm. But if I was like a guy and I was like, ooh, like Rain's looking good, like that workout's like pretty fire, like when would be a good time to like approach you? Is there one?
I mean, like, yeah, probably if I'm wrapping up like a set of something, like, or finishing up somewhere, like if I'm taking like the weights off, like I'll probably notice if somebody comes up then, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, that'd be a good time to come up. Yeah, but other than that, I can't think of one. Like, it's really not a great time.
Yeah, not especially when somebody's in the middle of their workout.
Yeah.
For sure. Definitely understand how that is. You're really caught up in like what you're doing. The last thing you want to do is like talk to people or whatever that aren't like your friends. You touched on this a little bit, but how are some ways, or what are some things that people can do to overcome that gym intimidation type of mentality, or like looking dumb? Like we talked about a little bit, but like what are some things that people can do to like, you know, use a barbell, or like go into the varsity free weight section where a lot of the guys are, and how do they kind of take that space?
Well, I think the key to it is just like be confident in yourself. Like you mentioned earlier, everybody starts from somewhere, and nobody's really gonna, like, unless you're grunting super loudly, nobody's gonna notice you there. Something that always helps me and makes me feel confident is music. I have playlists that I listen to when I go to work out, and they're like like I have titles for them, and it's just like they make me pumped up and feel confident and like I'm ready to go. And like, if you want to use equipment, go for it. If there's nobody on it, go for it. If there's somebody on it and they look like they're lifting about where you are, ask if you can work in. Most people should say yes. If they don't, that's another do. I guess, like, let people work in if they're doing the same weight as you, because like that's a nice thing to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
people that do the same thing together can knock that out, be a little bit more efficient. Yeah, I think Rain, I think you've provided a lot of really good insight into this discussion. There's probably so much more that we can kind of talk about. We might have to do a part 2, but wrapping up, I want to do a little bit of a speed round. I'll ask you a quick cue, and then you try to give me a fast, quick tip or answer that you have. What is a song that you listen to when you're trying to break a personal record?
Pancake.
Pancake by whom?
Oh boy, who's it by? I think it's Jaded. Pancake by Jaded. Aaron O'Toole actually introduced me to that song, and it's really hype.
Big hype. What is a song that you listen to when you're just on the treadmill?
I really like, what's it called? It's like the fuck you and you, cause that's my, that song has the perfect beat for one of my paces. It's like my 10K pace is that.
You just follow along to that beat?
Yeah, and I'll hit perfect things if I do a track workout and I listen to that song. If I forget my watch, it's perfect every time.
That's funny. If you don't like going to the gym, but you still want to get fit, what can you do?
Run, swim, hike, enjoy the outdoors. We live in a beautiful place with so many trails and awesome places to go. Just get outside.
Is CrossFit dangerous?
CrossFit is interesting. I think if you know what you're doing and what muscle groups you're activating while you're doing it, it's okay. I think if you are an inexperienced athlete or don't have base fitness, I think it can be dangerous.
All right, so now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you a body part, and then you tell me a favorite or a good exercise you can do for it. What about the glutes?
The glutes I love to do. Oh god, I call them pee-pee crushers. But I guess they're hip thrusts. I know they've become really popular in the last year for some reason. I used to be the only one to do them, and now it's all I see any other girl in the gym doing. You just put a weight across your hips, and I like to use a mat because I lift enough that it will bruise my hips just with the thing. But then you put your back on a bench, and then you just ass to the ground, and then you thrust it up with the weight on.
Throw in the air, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What about your lats?
My lat pull downs are great. There's also a body weight exercise if you don't want to use some weight for that is using the TRX machine or the TRX ropes. You just put both arms out in front of you, you lean forward, let your weight go down, and then you go out to the side to T-pose. And then arms above your head.
Jesus pose.
Yeah, exactly.
What about your triceps?
Triceps, I like tricep dips, or then the tricep rope pull downs. And if both of those are not your speed, tricep push-ups using a block where you put your butt to the ground and lift it back up with your arms behind you is also a good one.
The hamstrings.
Hamstrings, deadlifts all the way for me. I like to do single leg ones too to work on balance with that.
And last but not least, for the bros out there, what about the biceps?
Biceps, I like to do pull-ups for biceps too. I just find bicep curls don't do it for me. I tend to get it from other things that incorporate it. So bench, pull-ups, push-ups. I've never done a really bicep curls in my workout ever.
Yeah, fuck biceps. Well, Rain, thank you so much for being on the pod. It definitely sounds like from your experience that you're one hell of a bad bitch. Do you have any last remarks that you would like to say to our audience members?
I know final exams are coming up here shortly. Make sure you take care of yourselves and leave time in the day for yourself. You don't have to study sunrise to sunset. Take an hour, go to the gym, go for a walk. Just clear your head. You've got this.
This has been Johnson Ewan. You were listening to Rounds in 5. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.